think, potentially our most popular guest that we've had so far. Definitely the one that I've had the most people be like, wow, that Casaundra one was interesting, right? Because I think we talk about the most taboo stuff whenever you're on. So it's fun. So this is going to be our third episode together, and I would believe you're going to want to stay tuned for a fourth episode together from us. So Casaundra reached back out to me. Well, we communicate, but anyways, things have changed a lot in your practice and how you perform things and healing and helping men heal through traumas and all of these things. And I purposely did not ask more questions because I wanted to wait until we got on here to talk about it. So what topic would you want to start with? Do you want to start with BDSM, kink, tantra? Where do you want to start?
Yeah,
what feels good to you?
That's a good question because they're so unified in what I do. Sure. I guess we'll start with
or
kink.
How it changed, or how what started to come up, and
it's of course I've been a tantra practitioner now for a little over 6 years, but I've been in the lifestyle, the kink lifestyle since. Well, I thought it was since 2001, but I've been corrected that I've been in it since birth. And by somebody I was talking to that does these analyzing of our childhood and stuff. But I'm going to stick with 2001 when I was a stripper. I remember we had a fetish night at the strip club. I was 21 years old.
Favorite night?
Yeah. And, so we had all these couples coming in, lots of people coming in like latex and leather. And of course this is 2001. So, you didn't get to see that quite as often as maybe you do now. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like I'm loving all the outfits and everything. And I had some little $20 Fredericks of Hollywood little dress on. And I had a leash and a collar for this other girl that was there that was like, I'll pretend to be your submissive for the night. And so they needed a girl on girl show. And I was always the yes person. So they came and they asked me.
That's why we're friends.
So they came and asked me and her to do a girl on girl show. And I'm like, sure. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I've done them outside of the kink realm before, but so we get on the stage and I just lower her down, and she kneels down, and I don't know, something came over me. I was like, I fell into this this space where I tuned everything out, and I didn't realize it at the time. I saw later that the bar where the stage is behind the bar. The bar is a circle bar, and the stage is in the center of it. Sure. And so we're on that stage, and there's 4 bartenders around, and that's how you get tips to the girls on that stage. You hand them to the bartender, or you throw them on the stage. Okay. And so one of the bartenders that I knew, I just saw this bill waving in front of me. It was a $20 bill. So I looked up and she, all of a sudden she's like shocked. And she's like, you had this look on your face like you were going to just devour me. And I fell into this zone. I was like, well, that was kind of cool. I don't know what that is. And so it started my exploration a little bit there and, in and out of the lifestyle and enjoying it, when I could. But it really came back a lot. Actually, just before I became a Tantra practitioner, I had met some Dommes that were in the lifestyle that had each of them over 20 years experience. Wow. And they mentor. And so I became their mentor for a year, just learning everything I could. And they had suggested, why not do this on the professional level? And I'm like, well, I'm learning how to be a Tantra practitioner. And I kind of learned those, I knew BDSM, but I learned it on a professional level. And then Tantra on that professional level,
Which I think is, not to interrupt you, but when you're talking about a lot of this stuff, and we may have touched it on the other podcast. We talk and things blend. BDSM can be very taboo for a lot of people because I think it gets a bad reputation from bad people doing bad things with it. I think you told stories maybe on the first one about, back in your stripper days and things not necessarily going well and all of those kinds of things. We're definitely talking in a more controlled environment what you're speaking of. I just want to give all the listeners a little background,
Yeah. I've been in the,
we're not in a back alley,
No, the couple, they had been married for 25 years and they were in their late 50s, very loving, very sweet.
Well, there's an ethical and a right way to do everything, right? And so I think that's more of what I'm...
the ethics of it, yes. Yeah, because I definitely came from the non-ethical end where I didn't even realize it, but apparently I was the submissive to someone. And a lot of things that had happened where I allowed myself to be a submissive and did not know what I was getting in for. There was never any negotiations, no boundaries, no safe words, none of that.
That's dangerous.
Very. And that was like my first 15 years experience with it. And so, so to rewind
Not
a
first
bit.
5 weeks.
No, first 15 years. You know, it wasn't on the whole time, but as I dabbled in those 15 years, none of it was good. Not compared to what I know now, you know, and that's why I wanted to learn that because, you know, as when I got sober, 10 years ago, I knew that there were ways to be this sexual being that I wanted to be, but do it in a conscious way, do it in a way that suited me.
Right.
And this couple was just like, you know, they reminded me of like my parents or somebody, you know, just really sweet and warm. We'd have cake afterwards. You know?
So awesome.
Yeah, it was great. But it was definitely eye-opening.
Yeah.
That's for sure. To see how much is involved when it comes to negotiations and boundaries and consent and safety and all that was involved. And I'm like, I didn't know any of this, and I've been doing it for how long?
Right. Well, I think it's cool too because it's just a different avenue to learn to teach yourself how to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, how to have boundaries and how to do all those things. So
that's where I think I learned how to be assertive, how to be confident, how to set boundaries and hold them. The best is there because that's what I'm expected to do. Like that's what makes me a good dominatrix is when I have all of that in place. That's what's desired. So, you know, to have those things desired out of you, it's going to bring it out really fast and it's going to kind of lock it in a little bit better because I had so much fun doing it. Yeah. Too.
Do you think people seek out DOMs because they're looking for more stability in their life like that? More boundaries, more structure?
I think that the biggest reason that somebody seeks out a dominatrix is that they're feeling some sort of an imbalance in their internal energy. Some sort of imbalance in their internal energy is just a little bit off, and this helps them create the balance. Okay. And that's why they initially come to see me. But what tends to happen is that we discover that the imbalance is something that exists inside of them that they're resisting or they're leaving in the shadows and they haven't quite faced or looked at. Yeah. And that's where the fun begins. Yeah. That's where we start going into shadow work. You know, I have clients that we work through their shadows in a BDSM session, completely unseen. And it's extremely healing. And you want to talk about some fast, deep healing.
Oh yeah. So this, I want to go more into this for sure. So did you read Existential Kink? I can't remember if you read Existential Kink.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. You're going to love it. But basically the lady writes about like, you know, the things you don't want in life basically are the kink and are your kink, and you want to keep your kink in the shadow. But once you bring your kink to the light, it no longer becomes a kink and it can't exist anymore. Kind of like you're going to love the book. It's a really good book. But I want to dive into the unseen, the healing of that traumas, the healing of whatever those things are. Like, are you comfortable giving some examples for people or how that comes up? Because I get it, but there's a lot of people listening to this that outside of Pornhub don't know what BDSM is.
Yeah. And if you've watched BDSM on a pornography channel, you've probably seen a lot of them are actually done really well. Okay. They withhold the safety. That was actually part of my homework when I was mentoring is watch it was X Hamster that they had me go on and watch the different scenes. And we want you to report back. They'd send me certain scenes and they say, report back to us what they did wrong. Wow. And some of them, there'd be nothing they did wrong. And other ones I would see where they didn't hold in certain safety standards. And I'd report that back to them. It was like part of the homework. Yeah. Great fun homework.
I would have paid attention in that class. I wouldn't have failed that one.
I know. Right? Learning happens so much better when it's fun and sexy and kinky.
Add a little bit of lube and learning is good.
Right. Goes right in. We got puns for days.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think what we were talking about, the healing that happens in scene. When you are able to create that level of safety, which I do, the person is able to fully surrender. And when you're in this space of full surrender, your most inner parts, every last part of you gets to be seen exactly for what it is. We're not trying to force it to be something that it's not. We're not trying to manipulate it. We're just letting it show up. And, one example that I can give, I think we talked once about the Heather example, but I'll give another one.
I was going to say, I know she'd be cool with us talking about it.
Yeah, she definitely would.
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and tell that one. Our dear friend Heather, she definitely had some blocks that she wanted to kind of push through, and we had a long negotiation beforehand of what words are going to be said, what implements I'm going to be using. The process was left up to me because it needed to be in order to have that triggering effect.
Control. Sure.
Right. But the things that mattered, we had discussions about, when it came to bruising, when it came to impact, when it came to all of that. And so we got into scene and I barely even got bondage on her and she's just like, freaking out. And it's so funny because we know her now today. And it's like, what?
Yeah. So crazy, right?
She's so dominant today.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was freaking out, but she, stayed with it and she, breathed through it. And of course she is a transformational coach. So she knows how to handle herself and take care of herself and communicate. So as we're going through this, now we're getting to the point where her body is warmed up, her emotions are warmed up, everything is like in that energy. And so I take her and I place her on this bend over bench. And a bend over bench, it's kind of like if you imagine a sawhorse, but it's got, instead of just having the part across the top, it's on the sides too. So you just bend over.
Put your hands on it.
Yeah, hands and knees go on it. And I took saran wrap. And I wrapped it around her and the bench, one full rotation and a half. That was it. She was being confined by one layer of saran wrap, but I had gotten out the wooden spoon. And that was the triggering implement. And it caused this feeling of helplessness within her, meaning that one layer of saran wrap was all I needed to keep her under control, because that wooden spoon had basically rendered her helpless. Yeah. And so I start in with the wooden spoon, spanking, smacking, tapping, and I start saying the words that we had agreed upon, these triggering words that were the words of her upbringing, her father and stuff. And as I'm doing it more and more, like I'm getting to the point where she's about to start getting into the bruising portion of the impact play. And so I'm going more and more and I just remind her, I'm like, all it takes is you standing up and taking this spoon from me. And a few minutes passed before it really sunk in. Wait, I can take control. And as soon as that dropped in for her, she pushed herself off of the bend over bench. The saran wrap broke and she grabbed the wooden spoon from me. And then that was it, just what? That was that shift. And it was physically, somatically rewriting the narrative. And that's what we're bringing into these BDSM scenes. And that doesn't always have to be that way.
Sure,
I'm not looking to trigger everyone, but when there is something there, I'm going to allow you to step into it. And that doesn't mean that we're revisiting the trauma or reliving the trauma. That's not necessary. It was an agreement between her and I because of her ability to self-care and her ability to communicate in the relationship that we had. But often it's just allowing a specific element of the trauma to make its way into the scene that brings in that triggering effect. And you're already surrendered, invulnerable, and in this more powerless state.
Sure.
And so once you add that little element that brings on the trigger, well, we're there. We're already there in the emotion of it. And that's when it's up to the Domme to be able to help in the healing process. And so, asking them, what was the action? What was the thing that brought it up? If this is something agreed upon earlier, we know. Yeah. But sometimes it just comes up randomly. And so we tune into what was the action? Was it a certain smell? Was it a texture of something? Is it where I touched you? Is it the implement that I used? What was the thing that brought this on? And then what was the feeling behind it? But meanwhile, my submissive has one word that they have to call. Bondage is off. I'm giving them hugs. I'm giving them water. And we're starting in on this immediately. So as soon as the trigger hits, they're already rewriting the narrative, because as soon as that trigger came in, instead of being abandoned or neglected or abused or whatever happened to them in the past that caused that to be there, they're now getting immediate love, care, and attention. And then we're talking about it. We're talking about what was that action and what was the feeling behind it? How old did you feel? Where was this place and time? And letting them just talk through it, whatever comes diarrheaing out of their mouth, we let that come through. And then this is a part that I liked. I'm very particular in how I do this with some of my clients. When it comes to aftercare, I'm always giving the hugs and water and things like that. And grounding them and all that. But, I like to let them ask for what their needs are, because that's also changing the narrative from, just come and save me to I'm going to ask for what I need and what I want in that moment. And meanwhile, they're getting the hugs and they're getting the attention. So they're receiving love. But if there is something to that's specific to them, possibly they're asking for it from the space of that inner 5-year-old or 6-year-old that didn't get it then. And it's profound, that's not the full spectrum of the healing, but that's how in scene we're able to have mistakes. We're able to have triggers. We're able to have mishaps. And it's not about what happens. It's about how you respond to it. And are you responding with care and love and safety? Or are you responding with, well, I don't want to look bad, know?
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because I see it. It plays a role into how I parent Sloan now, because when something happens or whatever, I wrote down, because I didn't want to screw it up, but it's like the abandon and neglect, and then basically showing love and attention, but asking for the wants and needs, and not just coming and saving you. And I literally use those words with her. I'm like, Sloan, I'm not just going to come save you, but I'm here for you. I love you. What do you need in this moment? What is going to make you feel better? How do you need me to help co-regulate with you? Do you need a hug? Do you need me to tickle your back? Like, do you need me to just sit in the room with you? Like, what are the things you need so that you're developing the things? Dad's not going to just come fix your problem. Like, and I teach her that now, but Dad's also always fucking here. Very different things, instead of just rushing in and doing that. And, so it's just funny how, like, then you brought up, like, oh, what did the inner 5, 6, 7-year-old need? And I'm like, yes, doing something right.
Exactly. And it also shows how, BDSM plays into our whole life.
It does.
It's immense in shifting our self-confidence, our self-respect, our self-worth, our inner power, our ability to be able to take care of us and stand in our boundaries. It does all that stuff. Yeah. And that bleeds out into our everyday life. And that's why often, those who are showing up to be a submissive are the ones who are dominant mostly in their lives, and they want to just kind of let that go and experience the other side. And that's where it's like this balancing of energy. I mean, there's the sexual components and all of those things that can be with it, because BDSM isn't just corporal punishment and triggering and all of this, you know, but it bleeds into our everyday life and even in our parenting, like with this, it's amazing. Cause yes, that's exactly what the little 5 and 6-year-old needs. It's just for you to go, I love you. You're okay. What can I do for you? Yeah.
And a lot of times she's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just sit here with you, and that's fine. And, I think, okay, so let's go back to the beginning of, like, let's say a session or working with it. So everything you just described with Heather, there was already trust built between the two of you.
Years.
If you and I worked together, if we do, there's already trust built. You and my other buddy, there's already trust built because we've known each other, all those kinds of things. Because of the level of trust that has to go into this type of surrendering, how do you build that with somebody, if you can even answer that, that, like I send Steve in. I don't know Steve. Just, you know what I mean? Just a random person and like, hey, call Cassandra. She's going to help you through this. You're going through a divorce, whatever you got. You know, there's a lot of emotions coming up. Call Cassandra. To get somebody who's definitely a more masculine driven or type A, I'm in control all the time, to surrender when they don't know that that's what they need to do. What does that look like to build the trust that they know they can be safely around you and surrender?
That's a really great question. And as you're asking it, I'm like, how do I do that? Yeah. And, you know, I think the biggest thing is that we have an intake and big conversations, and I have a whole contract and lists and all of that, right, which allows that feeling of safety.
Of course.
But the surrender really comes in from the connection, and it's about building rapport and building connection. And I'm able to connect with people relatively quickly. And because I just listen to them, I care who they are. I care what's happening behind the mask that they're wanting to put on. And I give them permission to remove the mask and show me who they are. And I show them that I'm still here. You're still a loved person, and you're going to be taken care of with me. And no matter how that looks and what happens, you're going to be okay with me. Yeah. And, you know, I tend to, when we do go over limits and boundaries and preferences and things like that, I always veer on the side of caution for their first session. Always. Yeah. You know, we're going to do all the things they prefer. Like we do it on a scale of 0 to 5. You know, 0 is a hard limit. 5 is I love it every time. Yeah. I stay in the 4 and 5s.
Okay.
You know, we're going to stay in what they know, what they're comfortable with. That way they're getting to know me. They're getting to know my energy. There's a lot of awareness happening when you're blindfolded and gagged and you can't move and you've got implements hanging off of you in different places and spankings happening. You learn a lot about people's energy.
For sure. Yeah. Total sensory overload too. And learning to control that. That's interesting. But I mean, it makes sense. And I also think that there's a level of your intention and approach to it is not the intention and approach of necessarily everybody. You know, yours is very much coming from that place of like, this is safe, this is healing, whatever. And when you create that space, people then want to be a part of it.
Because when they walk in, you know, when I first started, I'd have them walk in, I'd have them kneel right away. And I realized I'm like, you know, I'm not connecting with them after they've kneeled. Oh, I put them into the place of submissive before they were ready. So, you know, I changed that years ago, and I was like, no, you're going to come and you're going to meet me. You're going to meet Cassandra, and we're going to have a conversation, and you're going to be talking to Cassandra, and we're going to just be jiving and talking about, we can talk about BS, we can talk about important things, whatever, you know, you lead the conversation. Once we go into scene, then I am madam. And I am nothing else but madam. But, you know, in that place where we're establishing trust, I'm not going to step into that role yet because I haven't earned it. And I want to earn it from you.
See, that's important, right? That's, you know, it's recently, careful how I word this. Recently, I had been given some unsolicited parent advice from people that I don't necessarily respect as parents and or don't have children.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to have the conversation with myself and my girlfriend and, you know, other people close to me about that, you know, and it's like, because the people that gave me the advice are very close. And I'm like, no, you know, like, I'm very attentive to my daughter. I am, like she says, dad answers. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that don't like that. They want more of the like, oh, she's running your life. No, she's 7 and she needs to know dad's here, you know, like all these kinds of things and having those conversations. But where was I going with that? So I am willing to take any advice about my parenting style from somebody I respect as a parent.
Yeah.
Any. And even if it's like, hey, you're kind of not doing that right, you know, or like, and honestly, if somebody were to say that, they would say it in a different way, you know, if I respected them, but you get what I'm saying? Like, hey, maybe that's not the way that, you know, there's a better way to do this. And I heed that and I almost implement it immediately every single time. But when it's somebody you don't respect, it's like, motherfucker, I don't even want to hear it. Like, I'm not interested. So, and that's just in that world, let alone being in the as most vulnerable positions that you're putting people in. If you don't have that respect, before, it's not going to work. Right? It's like, you're coachable if you respect the coach.
Yeah.
If you don't respect the coach, you're not coachable.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's huge. So, okay. So Heather's having her experience. I mean, probably one of the best people that I know at self-regulating. Probably made that scene a little bit easier to help self-regulate. So let's talk. Not Heather comes in.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have the tools.
Yes.
What's that look like? How's that happen? Yeah.
That is where I learn what tools they have.
Okay.
Because I need to know, what are you capable of?
What a great thing.
Yeah.
What a great thing.
I know what's going to trigger somebody before I go into scene with them. I know what it is. Are they prepared for it? And if I don't know that answer, we don't go there.
Wow.
And if they aren't prepared for it, when I teach them.
Yes.
We'll go through the process of learning. Hey, the next time that we do a scene, I've noticed that this thing right here, you're really avoidant by, maybe it's a certain name being called or a certain activity, but it doesn't quite correlate with, I just don't like it. It's more of there's a fear there. And when I ask about it, often they'll be like, well, here's the reason why. Okay, great. If you ever do want to push past that fear, I always leave it up to them. Listen, if they want to have a nice light scene where everything is safe and everything is within those boundaries, that's fine. Yeah. If a triggering scene intentionally triggering, sometimes it happens accidentally, but an intentionally triggering scene where we're going to be doing some healing work, they signed up for it. I knew it before they were arriving that that's what we're doing. And we had already had discussions about how to co-regulate, what we're going to be doing in the scene, how I'm going to be helping them and how they need to be helping themselves and the communication that they need to be having back and forth. Like
real time teaching of co-regulation. It gets amazing. Like that doesn't get to happen.
Yeah.
Very often. I had a situation this weekend where I hate the word triggered, but like the protector, the masculine, the I will fuck your world up came out, right? And I shut everything else down. And it was me and Sloan. Boom, that's it. I'm like, I don't give a fuck whose feelings I hurt. I don't, like, nothing else matters, and I just was like, kaboom. Yeah. And now, 5 days later, I'm going back and I'm like, okay. Could have trying to rework the regulation in my head of like, these are the things I could have done to stay more regulated and whatever. Also, your initial reaction was exactly what it should have been. It wasn't wrong. Mm-hmm. Could have got out of it much faster though, and like going back, but like to have that in real time is so rare.
Yeah, very much so.
And like I don't know anywhere else that it happens except for your work.
To be able to be in that trigger and slow it down in the moment with someone who's safe and someone who's guiding you. Yeah. And I think that's what we all need.
Yeah. It's like the learning in real time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing.
And that's how I've learned, but I got so good at regulating myself, sometimes too much, it was a balance between, I was good at regulating myself and detached. So, but between those two,
I teeter on that a lot,
there's self-awareness and there's just putting it into the analyzer rather than into the feeler. And sometimes I have to watch myself. Am I just over analyzing and not really feeling it? Or I go into that too.
Yeah, I definitely, but I don't know where it came from. And, someone would probably say, childhood traumas because you had to deal with a whole bunch of this, that, and the other, or whatever. But I really do have an amazing ability to just be like, okay, that was that. Now we're going in this direction. Yeah. And forget about it.
Even in a traumatic childhood, I had a traumatic childhood, not my earliest years. There was your typical traumas that happen, abandonment, those kind of things. But, I realized that afterwards. I'm like, hey, it's just like freaking abandonment, neglect.
The normal things the average 5-year-old deals with.
It's normal in my world. Oh yeah. After I said that, I'm like, that's yeah. So anyway, the fact that I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, there was lots of downfalls to that, many, 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 but there were lots of great parts to that. I was raised in monotone energy. Sure. I was raised that when something big happens, we we sit down and we open a book about it and we look through that book to see what it may say and we discuss it. This didn't actually happen in real time, but it was taught to me, you know? And so I had that little bit of messaging that helps me to just calm down. And plus there was so much chaos in my childhood that when there's chaos around, there's a soothing effect that happens within me. And so I've realized that it's those two things, you know, we call it traumatic, call it whatever you want, but they serve me in being able to go, okay, this, I can feel this rising up. Oh, what's happening inside of me? What part of this is about me and me only? Yeah, that person was an asshole, or yeah, that person said this thing, but it wouldn't affect me if I didn't believe it to some degree. Yes. So what part of me believed what they said, and basically I hurt my own feelings by doing that. That's extreme ownership, everybody. Yeah. That's what extreme ownership means. Yeah. It's all about me. Yes. When it comes to that, it's all about me. Yes. And so, yeah, you know, there's sometimes it is that self-awareness and extreme ownership. And then other times it's just, I'm not going to feel this right now. I'm going to analyze it later and pick it apart and ruminate on it. And, and that happens too. Yeah. And again, I think everything ends up serving us in some capacity, and the ability of like, oh, something's happening. Let's open this book and let's find a solution. That's fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. And that was always the solution to everything. When I was nervous going door to door, you know, I was the door knocker, going door to door, and then I'd get someone. The attractive woman is the door knocker. I see. No, I was like 10. Oh, okay, never mind. Never mind. Disregard. Cancel. Edit that out. No, as a little kid, they start you off early, but it's the same effect. You know, look at the cute little kid. Yeah, you can't say no to them. Yeah. So, you know, I'd get those ones who they may have been pretending whatever, but they acted interested. Of course. Now it's time for me to preach. Right. And, you know, I get to break out my Bible and I'd be nervous and yet calm and collected and showing them from the Bible. And I feel like that really helped me in being able to calm myself and logically look through things and sort through my mind as I'm kind of nervous and anxious. See, that's how I feel that way. And that's part of what I try and teach Sloan, that like, it's okay to have all these feelings, but one, get them going in the right direction and just do the thing. Like, I don't not speak on stage because I'm nervous before. I don't not do things because that's happening. Like internally, you may be feeling one way, but this is where like there are aspects of stoicism that are great. Well, that's the definition of courage, is feeling fear, but doing it anyway. Yes. We still have the fear. Yes. Still scared to death. Yep. Yeah, I mean, you know, even coming and doing these podcasts, which I love, and they're so much fun, there's still a little bit of nervousness in me. Am I going to say the right thing? Is somebody going to take it the wrong way? Or am I going to be misunderstood? You know, there's still that stuff, but I'm doing it anyway because that's what courage is. It is. And I love that, you know, part of what I believe was happening back then too was by doing that, there's a level of like, I'm not going to become the victim if I'm going to start looking for the solution right away. Yeah. Right. And that's huge to not program that in. Like, okay, in giving you, whether the guidance was right or wrong, giving you somewhere to search for something bigger. Yeah. I think that's cool. I think that I think that's a double-edged sword too, because that is cool. I love that part about it because I have that too. Yeah. But then I just lost my thought. It was opening the book, double-edged sword. Shit. What were we? Literally did my brain just went ploop. That's okay. What were we talking about? That's so we were saying, I was saying how like not going into the victim, looking for the solution. Yes. So not going into the victim. That's what I was missing. That's the double-edged sword, because being victim for a brief amount of time, when you recognize somebody was mean to me, somebody did something to me, what we're allowing ourselves to feel it and be present in it and move through that and be like, oh, that made me sad. Oh gosh. But remember that part of us that believes it? Being the victim for that brief amount of time and feeling it, we can tune into what part of us believed it, because we go, oh, that made me sad. What part of me is feeling sad? Oh, that's the little girl inside that was told she was ugly in elementary school. And so when that person said it, it triggered it. And so, yeah, you don't want to stay in victim. You don't want to pay rent there. You don't even want to stay through the night sometimes. Yeah. But, you know, we do need to visit it and just stay there. I think I skipped that part.
I skip right over that part. I'm just like, fucking hell. I'm not going to like, I'm so like, you know, like, let's go. I skip over that part a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
You know,
I have to remind myself, oh no, wait, hold on, rewind. Feel it first, and then we'll go into
see. It's so interesting because that's my pattern, but I teach Sloan. Feel it. It's okay. You're safe. Like all, you know, all that stuff.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Do as I say, not as I do. You know, whatever. We do the best we can. That's why I love
do the best
podcasts.
We can with the information that we have at the time.
Sure. And this is why I love doing the podcast. Like I selfishly do this because I learn something every single time. Like I got coffee with a guy who I'm going to have on. He's awesome. He's a, does like counseling for men who are going through divorce. Super awesome guy. Should connect you to. And I like just getting coffee. I'm like, fuck yeah. Like I learned like 2 or 3 new things I want to do with Sloan. I'm like, this is how I like to learn. It's not necessarily in the book or the whatever. It's the like real life experiences of a parent who's been there and done it, failed, done it, failed, done it. You know, that kind of a thing.
I agree. I'm the same way. I'd rather just listen to somebody's story and glean from it the things that resonate with me than to read a book that's teaching me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems to make more sense.
I think it's the AA in me. You know, hearing somebody else's story was my biggest drive for sobriety. And so that probably.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you find I guess, all right, what I kind of knew that part about a lot of the work you were doing, or well, not to that extent, but how does the kink then play a role, or the tantra play a role in, because that seemed for most people very much BDSM related. Right. Yeah. And I know you do more work than just that. Yeah. So I kind of want to check the time. Let's do 5 more minutes on BDSM, and then let's do a whole second podcast together on that. Cause I don't want
about me submitting.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, I definitely hear about you. All right. Let's hit me with it.
So I have not submitted in 10 years.
Okay.
Because before that,
I didn't think those words were going to come out of your mouth today, to be perfectly honest with you. I knew this is why I said I don't want to talk about it ahead of time. I want to hear about you submitting.
So, you know, I never found someone that I could submit to. Even after my year mentorship, they said that after the year, I have to do 24 hours of their submissive after a year of dominating. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. You know, I'm probably going to fail, but whatever. 2 hours in, nope, tapped out. Yeah. Couldn't do it. It was just, I had to rage towards this loving couple that I adored, and I was feeling rage towards them. And so I was just like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. So I'm just like, okay, I'm not a submissive. That's fine. Sure. Whatever. I enjoy being a dominant, continued on. So fast forward, I meet my husband 4 years ago. And
he's awesome.
Yeah, he is. He's amazing. And as you know, he carried a strong feminine energy that had yet to be expressed. And of course, I'm carrying this strong masculine energy. You know, what is it? Well, we attract what we lack. You know, and so we're drawn to and in this space of being there for him as he's allowing this feminine part of him to just be expressed and move through it and understand it and all of that, in which he has. You know, he's come full circle with that whole thing. And I've done the same with my masculine. You know, I've come full circle understanding this masculine. And when I say feminine and masculine, I am talking about gender. I'm not talking about tantric energies. You know, and very much in the stereotypical, like how we act as masculine and feminine. And so as we're healing this part, now we're 3 years into it. We're married, and things are going great. And he's an amazing human. And one night we're on our way home from dinner, and he goes, "So when am I going to be able to dominate you? Is that all right? Can I do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And it came out so casually, and I went, "Oh," and he went, "Oh," and we were both like, "Oh."
What do we do now?
I'm like, "Oh shit, okay." And now he's seen me do it. So he's getting a little more comfortable with it. He was afraid of it in the beginning because he had a past relationship where she bought a whip, took a weekend workshop, and just let all our anger out on him. And he's like, never again. But he's learned to trust me in dominating him. And so me dominating him had become a thing that we had played in a little bit, to build that trust for him and to let him explore with someone who was safe and was going to care for him. And so now here I am saying yes. And after I say yes, I'm like, oh, I just got turned on. I'm like, oh my God, who is this? Who is this? What part of me is this? Like, holy crap. This is all bursting new inside of me.
Brand new for you.
Yeah. Last time I submitted, I was in my 20s and I was drunk. You know, I just didn't know where to go with this. So I'm like, well, you know, let's play with it. And I had some rope, you know, I got to pick the implements, and I got out some rope in a blindfold, and that was it for that. And, you know, I showed him how to do the rope in the blindfold. And what was amazing to me is that the moment he put the rope and blindfold on me, I was at peace.
Wow.
I just totally, like, completely surrendered. I had finally found a man that was able to show up in my life and provide me with enough safety, reassurance, love, affection, devotion, all of these things that he is absolutely all of. He filled me with that. He filled all those empty spaces and taught me how to love even deeper and how to trust even deeper.
Yeah.
And I got to feel it. And when you're able to, like, we feel it, you know, yeah, I trust that person, but to see it and feel it, like to be embodied in it and recognize it inside of you, it was shocking to me and also so relieving. You know, there was a part of me that was this woman, make it happen. Like you say, you know, we're pushing through. And I had very much neglected, but didn't know how to take care of this part of me that went, I just want to surrender and not have to think about anything and just kind of like lay here and somebody really like totally take care of me, you know?
Yeah.
And that part was so resistant because the times that I had given into that before, it was completely objectified. It was not exposed. Anyways, they took advantage of that part of me, that part of me that wanted to surrender, and they scooped me up and took me for their own, you know? And so stepping back into that, not only did I expand, I mean, my sexuality, I was demanding, like texting him, Daddy, like, can you do that again tonight? And the next thing you know, we're adding paddles and we're adding a ball gag and we're adding this and we're adding that. And just the other day, or yesterday on Valentine's Day, in the mail comes a collar, a pink collar that says Daddy's Girl. And it's like these little things, like it doesn't, here's the thing. A lot of people think that submissive is like the less than, dominant is the more than. You're like, you're something more stronger if you're the dominant. And actually there is just as much of this trust and surrender and work and love and devotion on both ends. Yeah. I mean, what's a dominant without a submissive? Just an idiot in leather with a whip in their hands with no one to occupy them and give them the attention that they need, you know? So you need both sides of it. And I feel like me being able to step into this super submissive role, just like that, immensely powerful. And I'm still wrapping my head around it. This is still fresh and new, but I can tell you that it catapulted me into being a better Dom instantaneously.
I was just going to ask that.
Instantly.
Yeah. Because now you can access the other parts of you, right? Yes. So you can just access a deeper level. I mean, it's why when people say you can only heal to the extent that you've healed yourself. So true. You know, I mean, it's the same thing. So this, I think of this all the time, and I think it's such a great explanation of the fine line of BDSM in that world. Is 50 Shades of Grey is a #1 bestseller and a movie, whatever, millions of dollars in a movie. But if he is poor and lives in a trailer, it's a horror movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that. If nothing else changes besides that component, it becomes a horror movie, right? And so I think that's such a good fine line to describe choosing the right practitioner. Yeah, because it's not like the movies. It's right. I mean, and I think that's with everything, also, you know. Also, yes, but like yeah. But I think that's a good. And so I guess what I want to finish off with is, guy or girl hears this and is like, oh my God, I'm interested in that level of healing. I'm interested in being taken to those places. How do they find someone? Can they contact you? Like, let's just say they live in Arizona. I'm just picking something, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, I don't know if I can get to Florida or whatever. Like, is there a way they can start looking in their area, or should they contact you and you have a network of people they can help with? I don't want to give people this information and like give them a way to connect to something.
And, you know, there are a lot of organizations out there that are doing some great information, giving lots of information about this. But the best place to start is fetlife.com.
Okay.
FetLife is like Facebook for kinksters.
Okay.
There's events on there. And if you look for events that are called munches, it's like lunch, but with an M.
Okay.
And go to a munch. Find the people in there that have lots of lifestyle experience, maybe that are a couple, someone that you feel comfortable with, that you can start learning from, because this is passed on through each of us. You know, there's plenty of places you can go to learn. You know, I'll teach people, you know, for their own coupleship. I will teach them in a professional space. I'll teach them that way, or we go through the healing, and they can reach me at CasaundraHope.com. Okay. Pretty simple. You know, you go there, all my links to everything is there. But yeah, get started on fetlife.com. Find some people in your local area. Go to live munches. You know, don't try to meet somebody just from what you know online. Get to know them face to face. Really feel into the person that they are, because it's going to be really important.
So is that in terms of learning it, or is that in terms of finding a practitioner? Like, if someone to find a practitioner specifically, I guess is more of my question. And how do you find is there questions they should ask that are like, oh, I'm going to get sort of a style of what Casaundra is offering, as opposed to just maybe not that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
You want practitioners, a dominatrix that has some sort of mental health training. Okay. If they have, they're a dominatrix coupled with different mental health practices, then that's going to be somebody who's great, because that's somebody who is at least trying to learn on the deeper end of it.
Sure.
You know, if you go to a dominatrix website and it's like 5 women, all of them look in their early 20s, you're probably going to go there and get something that you're not maybe expecting. That might be a good thing, but you know, when it comes to this realm, maybe not so. But a lot of it is you kind of paving your own path and finding people in your local area. When you go to one of those munches, they're going to be led by people who have been in the lifestyle for a long time. Find the people who are leading the munches and ask them. They know who the professional doms are in the area, and they know who the trusted professional doms are in the area, the people who have been around for a while and aren't just like a kink for the night, you know, or just trying to make a couple extra bucks because, you know, some other practice isn't working out for them.
Right.
So I think that is the best place to start, in person at a munch, talking to people who have been there for a while. Beautiful.
I love it. All right, we're going to do a part 2, so stay tuned, guys. We're going to do this next one a little bit more on kink and more of the Tantra work.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes.